back to my channel. Refuge Tea here with my Granny's Closet. Back with another video for you guys. How is everybody doing today? How's your Wednesday going? What are you working on? And what are you guys up to? Right now, I have my laptop here. I am fully ready and prepped and excited to read to you from this article that I got or that I found online this week, and I have just been chomping at the bit. Could not wait to get on here and share this information with you guys. But before we get started, let's get into some intro stuff. If you don't know, now you know. You can find me on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook, all underneath my Granny's Closet 3Gs. For my Facebook page, everything that I make and sell at my farmer's market, I sell at on my Facebook page. So if you're interested in purchasing or browsing or just wanting to see what I make and sell, you can go and find me there and you can check it out there. For my group page, my Granny's Closet 3Gs, no spaces, just add the S at the end. That is where we go to congregate and conversate about all things crafty and yarny goodness. That is where you guys can post all of your makes and everything that you do through the week, or if you have a vendor event coming up or anything you need ideas, that is where you can go to ask some questions or get ideas. If you are new here, returning subscriber, thank you for joining me today. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. I really do appreciate each and every single one of you guys.
T-shirt of the day.
We got Jack and Sally here. My faded t-shirt. We got Sally is falling apart here. I apologize. Together forever. My mom bought me this shirt for my birthday a few years back. And I can't tell you how much I love my family because they know my likes and they always get me something that has to do with any of Jack and Sally, the Marvel Kingdom, the DC Kingdom, and it's just, I love it. So thank you, my family. Thank you, Mama. All right, let's get into today's video. If you notice that my face is a little pale, my nose is a little rosy, I'm in pain and my allergies are acting up. So every time I sneeze or cough or anything right now, I feel the pain in my back and just ouch. So, if my face scrunches up because it hurts, that's why. So I am reading from an article by this girl named Julia. Her article is called The Real History of Crochet and Expert Ways In. And her blog is called littleworldofwhimsy.com. It is so cool. She says, "Hi, my name is Julia. I design amigurumi patterns when I'm not indulging in a fantasy novel or listening to classical music. Grab some bubble tea and let's make something together." That is cool. I'm not a bubble tea fan. I am a Thai tea fan. But I will still grab my tea and we will still make something together. She gives you a table of contents. This article was written by Julia February 19th, 2022. I saw this and I was just like, oh my gosh. It has everything that we talked about last week, the history of crochet. As we know, it was a modern art form that was originated in the 1820s, the mid 1820s, and became popular when it migrated to England. But we know that it was a shepherd's knitting in Denmark that was founded in Denmark. So we know that it was called the shepherd's knitting because the shepherds would get textured fabric and they would use a flat hook. And I'll show that right here. It is crazy what they used to use. And I just found the picture in her article and I didn't realize that. I thought they would just use their hands, but this is the tool that they would use. And it was a sort of introduction into crochet. So we know that. And we also know that the Chinese had their own style of crochet as well. But now we know the name of it because I couldn't find the name of it, but she has it in her article here. And it's called Tambor or Tambour, I believe, because it's O-U-R and T-A-M-B-O-U-R. So I'm thinking Tambor, and I'm trying to use a Chinese dialect for that, but I'm not very good at that. So we also know that, and it states in our article, we also know that today Crochet has the T at the end, whereas in French it's crochet and there's no T at the end, but it slowly started to become the way we spell it now because of Britain's translation in 1837. There was actually a book of knitting instructions called the Ladies Knitting and Netting Book, and she has a link where you can click that and she'll send you to the book and you can actually look at what it says. And I gotta smudges. You'll see me without my glasses. Here I am, where are you? So although the book was written in English, it gives all sorts of patterns for knitting actually, and it shows you where you can get you can order accessories and home decor. But there was also, she says that there is a pattern written in French, and she translated by herself. She translated it from French to English. But let's try to read some of this in French because I did take French in college and in high school just to brush up. My husband didn't know I spoke French. It was so funny. We were in our car about maybe, I want to say about 5 years ago now. I don't know why he didn't know I spoke French. He knew I spoke Japanese because we went to Japan together. He knew I spoke Spanish because, we grew up as, yes, of course, we're Native American descent, but we grew up with the Mexican heritage. So, but I did take French in high school for an entire year, actually for 2 years. And then I went and did a refresher course in college. So, while I'm not fluent and I don't remember everything that I learned, I can read some of it. So let me try. Okay. Pour faire une bourse à crochet à double maillet. I think that's how you say stitch. So maillet, I think is stitch. Il faut commencer avec 8. I can't remember how to say 8 in French. So maillet les premiers 3. Il faut augmenter shock. I'm all. I keep forgetting that I can't move, and I lean forward right now, and it just like pulled. La règle est. Okay, I'm done because the words are getting bigger. The one word I understand, mailles, is French for stitch, I believe, because it comes after the number. Stitches. Let's see. She does translate it into English. I read it. So that's how I'm sure, because I cheated a little bit. But English translation by me. 8 stitches, 8 stitches, 80 stitches. So it's pretty self-explanatory, this pattern. Instructions for creating a purse with a crochet hook in double stitch. And I'm assuming double stitch means double crochet. You must begin with 8 stitches in the first round. You must increase in each stitch until you finish with 16 stitches. Okay, it sounds like it's a round. So you can start out with a magic circle. You can start out with chain 4 and slip stitch the first stitch and then double crochet 8 stitches in the round. But this is what I want to do. If you guys are watching this on Wednesday, Whip Wednesday, I'm going to post this pattern on my Whip Wednesday on my group page. Okay, let's see if we can make this. I'm going to try and make this today and post it. So I want to post this pattern. We'll look at the comments later on and see who was able to recreate this pattern. It seems self-explanatory. So the rule is to increase 8 stitches in each round for a medium length. Increase until there are 100 stitches. For a shorter one, 80 stitches. So if you want a large purse, increase to 100 stitches. If you want a smaller purse, 80 stitches. Always work one round plain between each increased round. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm going to figure it out. So we all know about, the crochet. It began and flourished in England after Queen Victoria started crocheting, and it was not the poor man's lace anymore. It became, very popular and increased in popularity after that. In 1840, after English crochet patterns were published by a woman named Jane Gaugin. And after this is when the word crochet stopped being crochet without the T. It started, the spelling started to become crochet and also tambauer. So, and it also gives us another pattern here. So it wasn't just limited to the shepherd's knitting or tambauer embroidery for the Chinese. It started to become a like widely known, very popular art form. So let's continue reading. So both of these art forms became a sort of foundation, like I said last week, for the crochet. And it all involved some sort of hook. Now, this is where it gets really cool. So we all know that the shepherd's knitting, originated in Denmark, and they would get textured fabric and create thicker material for them because they would be out in the elements. So they needed something waterproof and something that would keep them warm. So they created this, sort of slip stitch. But I thought that they used their hands. No, 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 no. This is the hook that they use. So they would use this hook to, do the slip stitching. And I was just like, man, so they would make, different things, not just clothing materials. So like baskets, rugs, maybe pants, shoes. So it was a flat piece of triangular, man, I can't even see. And then it had a hook at the end. So it was like sort of this hardware. So it was like a flat triangular hardware that had a hook at the end so that they can reach through, widen the stitch, and then pull just like we do now. So I'm thinking, you guys know furls. They have that sort of similar body style to their hooks. It's narrow at the hook end and then it widens. For people like me that crochet like holding a pencil, it's difficult for me to use a furls. I've never actually used a furls hook, but I've had crochet hooks where they don't have, or where they do have that bulb, middle, and it's difficult for me to use because I don't hold it this way. So I don't hold it as a spoon or fork, but I don't use my spoon or fork like that either. Everything I use with my left hand is with a, sorry if my right eye keeps twitching. It's because I'm trying to ignore the pain. Ah! My mom gave me some crochet hooks that my grandmother and my great-grandmother owned. So I do have some sort of historical crochet hook. There's several different styles. My great-grandmother was born in 1919. My great-grandmother was born in 1919 and my grandmother was born in 1934. So these are their hooks. This is, let's see, put this here. This has got a wooden wide handle, kind of like the furls, and then they would have that metal hook just stamped in there. Now, it didn't have a brand name. Oh, actually, it does have a brand name. It says Susan Bates. So this is one of the earlier models of a Susan Bates hook. I also have a sort of like a, I forget what this is called. These are made in England, and it does have it here on the side. It's made in England. What is this? Cross stitch? So this is how they would pull it through for cross stitching, I believe. So here's another cross stitch, because my grandmother would cross stitch a lot, and so did my great grandmother. I do have several of those cross stitches. And I do have another, I don't know, is this called cross stitching? Forget what it's called. So I don't know, I believe these are for cross stitching or embroidery. So here's another cross stitch tool. And then here is this one. So I think they all came in some sort of a kit, but they all have the same thing in common. It's a wooden handle. A couple of these are very fragile, but these are some of the earliest tools that they were able to purchase in, you know, America. I don't even know what this is for. I have no idea. This is another wooden tool, but it looks like a newer wood, not as old as the other one. Oh gosh, my back, sorry. So I do have those hooks, or that hook particularly, this one, that just floors me, because now that I'm finding the history of crochet that first came to America, I do have one of the very first Susan Bates hooks out there. So I'm not going to sell this. I'm going to keep this. This is my great grandmother's hook. And I do actually have some boy hooks that my grandmother and my great grandmother, or my grandmother, had. Let's get back to the article. I just wanted to give you guys a little show and tell there, because I'm so excited that I actually own one of the earlier models of a newer modern style crochet hook that they would use in the early 1900s. But I mean, look at this hook. I'm going to try to lean forward here. Look at that hook. That is just crazy to me. I'm in awe, trying to keep tears away. Not just because of that too, but because I'm in so much pain. My back really, really hurts. I woke up to most excruciating pain this morning, you guys. At 5 in the morning, my calf and the arch of my foot just curled and spasmed, and I felt like the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wizard of Oz, where her feet just crumble in on itself after they remove the ruby slippers. I'm just like, that is what my foot looked like this morning, and I was just like, it hurts. So let's get back to the article. I'm just recovering from pain. Sitting down too long hurts. Standing up too long, it hurts. So I need to get back to my lounging. My husband's like, just rest today. I'm like, I have so much to do. But we did all of we needed to do yesterday, so I get to relax a little bit today. Let's see. So in the early 1760s, a technique creating chain stitch embroidery more rapidly using a small hook needle was introduced in China, which is tambour. So tambour embroidery, also known as crochet to us in America, the small hook needles were also used to create chains in the air, moving away from the embroidery context that it originated from. So you will see here, there's some wooden and there's some metal, just like my great grandmother's crochet hook. Okay. This is what their hooks look like for China and for when they were doing the embroidery stitch, and it started to become more of a popularity thing. Let's keep moving on. This is another example of the first crochet pattern published in England. So here is a picture of from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York City. This is one of the most common ways to use a small crochet hook. You guys, we all know that the lace stitch always uses the smaller hooks. Sorry, I was just sneezing, so my nose is a little ruby red. So we know that by the 1820s in Europe, it became more popular and became an exquisite art form. It says here that it was first in a Dutch monthly publication called Penelope. These first instructions in the 1821 volume called for a tambour needle in its materials list, with a purse design that included slip stitches like the ones used in shepherd's knitting, as well as chains and single crochet stitches. Isn't that cool? So after this, a couple of, 20 or 30 years later was when that purse pattern was first published in England. So in that, I would love to see what you guys come up with, how you guys interpret that pattern. I'm assuming double crochet. To me, it seems like a double crochet. Okay, so we know how crochet got its name. And the crochet hook, it originated from the first, modern tambour embroidery and the Denmark shepherd's knitting. And the modern crochet hook, says here, originated in 1830s in England, where the modern art of crochet was perfected. So crochet was cemented into existence after grabbing from all kinds of different, also from Peru. Remember, we learned about that one art form in Peru. So it's in different countries of the world have their own interpretation of crochet. And I think from England on, it's sort of from France to England, it kind of cemented into crochet. And for us as Americans, it really did hit mainly in the 1920s through the 1970s, when it just became a huge hit. Now, it hurts my heart to say this, but a lot of the newer, by 1840s, the flat hook of the shepherd's stitch, or of the shepherd's knitting hooks, and of the the tambour, the Chinese tambour embroidery, that evolved in, it became an actual hook, and it began to emerge mostly in England. Now this is what hurts my heart, because I love elephants, and it was made of ivory, and it was said to be more suitable for yarn. Now I'm reading a little bit verbatim from here. These ivory hooks were different from flat hooks because of their much more shallow taper, smaller head, and round cross section along its entire length. And that is what Furl's crochet hooks look like. So it's a longer neck and a more bulbous part of the body where you would hold it, a lot like the Furl's crochet hook. And the hooks started to get more popular and gain more traction as crochet became more popular in England, and they were frequently used and more common with beginners of crochet. And tambour needles might be, because the needles and the hooks before that, prior to that, were said to be, or thought to be, a little bit too small. This was one of my favorite parts of the article. I'm so excited to read this that I want to read it to you verbatim. So, Julia, if you don't mind, I'm going to read this verbatim. I have been taking some things in context and reading it to you guys, interpreting it in my own words. But I want to let you guys know this is the article that I'm reading from. So I am giving credit to Julia and the Little World of Whimsy article that she wrote. So I'm going to read this. When did Irish crochet originate from? You guys know I love Ireland. I love Scotland, that whole area there. I want to go backpacking one day and just visit all the popular spots in Ireland. And I just want to go and adventure out there. So I'm excited to read this to you guys. When did Irish crochet originate? Irish crochet originated in the 1840s in Ireland as a quicker and easier method of imitating Venetian needlepoint lace. So you see, Ireland, America, England, France, we adapted and created our own way of crochet from different parts of the world. And they're saying here that the method of Irish crochet is a method of imitation of Venetian needlepoint lace. Although it had existed at a small scale in Ireland prior, it gained mainstream popularity during the Irish potato famine as a way for young women to earn a living. And we know this. We heard about this last week where because of the potato famine in Ireland, the young women that had the farms started to crochet to earn money for their household because they needed the income. She goes on to say that you've probably heard some variation of the story that Irish crochet saved the country from the potato famine. Much of this story is true. Irish crochet did become much more widely produced during the Great Hunger, which lasted from 1842 to 1854. So 12 years, which we did not know. So that is new to us. However, many narrations of the story gloss over the political and social implications of the sudden popularity of lace during that time and how it has reverberated through history. So this was the most saddened, it's very daunting to hear this. I loved hearing the history. I am a history buff. You guys know this. So be prepared. Okay. So if you guys know any of the history and if you're from, I know there's some people on here that are from Ireland. So if you guys know any of this, let me know. Irish textiles like lace worked with a crochet hook, and linen have long taken on a political quality, mostly because of the relationship between Ireland as a colony of England from the 16th to the 19th centuries. During this time, England restricted native textile industries in Ireland, so much so that Irish poets were condemning the native adoption of English clothing as an acquiescence to colonization. What? Later on, when the linen export trade was allowed to flourish, it largely benefited the already prosperous Ulster province. I'm trying to get that right. Ulster. It largely benefited the already prosperous Ulster province, whose demographic was predominantly those who had immigrated from England and later became Northern Ireland after the Irish Civil War. This created a divide between the relatively impoverished lower classes that produced linen and lace and the Ulster province of upper class elites that exploited them, profited from and wore the lace. This dynamic of the charged pairing between an elite patroness and a peasant craftswoman captures the loaded connotations that Irish crochet and lace carried into the 20th century. Isn't that blow your mind? Okay, and here is Corach macross lace, one of the many types that flourished during the Irish potato famine. So this is the crocheted Irish lace that they would sell and create and sell during the Irish potato famine. During the potato famine, the lace industry flourished and many schools were created to teach poor girls needlework. However, according to scholar J.M. Singe's estimation, the newfound lace industry merely funded further immigration to the United States rather than improving the local economy in any meaningful way. And by 1908, and by 1907, a charity lace ball attended by Irish and British elite was built on the labor of barefoot women in unlit, unclean cottages, whose beautiful lace works were exclusively worn by fashionable elite women. By the post-war period, the colonial associates of Irish lace had become more or less flattened out and depoliticized, ignoring the complexities of how the Irish textile industry had been established. With the rise in social standing of Irish Americans, Irish lace and textiles suddenly became fashionable in mainstream U.S. publications like Vogue and Saturday Evening Post throughout the 1950s. It seems like a lot of the popularity in the came from exposure of the poor man's lace. So it was still poor man's lace in Ireland, but they were being exploited, and that just breaks my heart to read all of this. And you guys know who Grace Kelly is. She was very popular in dance, singing, and big screen movies with a lot of, Frank Sinatra, a lot of those dancers out there. So she was an Irish American. No, don't know if you guys knew that, but she became a poster child of Irish Americans. So when Grace Kelly married into the royal family of Monaco, she disdained the then fashion of European brides to wearing antique Irish lace. Get this. Get this, okay? During the period of time when Irish lace was heavily promoted internationally and her Irish ancestry was emphasized, Kelly chose not to wear the antique lace that was almost certainly made under deplorable conditions. This suggests that Kelly had some inkling of the colonial associates of the use of antique lace in royal wedding gowns, or at the very least, some sense of the conditions under which the Irish lace industry rose. And here is Grace Kelly in her wedding gown, dress made from Brussels lace. So you had to have thought, wow, she had to have some kind of knowledge about the deplorable, or just the way that these women were treated, barefooted and in a cabin somewhere, just creating this lace for these bigwig people that wanted to exploit and call the lace their own. Isn't that, it breaks my heart to know this. In the 21st century, the tradition of using Irish lace continues in Europe royal weddings, despite Kelly's seemingly deliberate effort to break out of the mold. Kate Middleton's highly anticipated wedding dress, which was partially inspired by Kelly's, includes lace elements inspired by Limerick and Corrick's Irish lace that flourished during the Irish potato famine. Ugh. I would like to find about more on that. And we did, through this article, find out more of the Chinese art form tambour. We did not know the name of tambour until this article here. And I've branched out and read other articles just to confirm, and this is the one that has most of everything grabbing, putting into one spot. So that's why I'm only reading from this one today. So when did crochet become popular in America? I want to say it started to gradually come in between the early 1900s, and it gained traction from the 1920s. But when it became its big boom was the 1940s to the 1970s. The 1970s was when it became extremely popular, and everybody and their mama, okay, and it's kind of like now it became full circle. So it always does that. Crochet, or the popularity of fashion, has always done that. It always comes full circle. Like volunteering last week at my kids' school. Sorry, guys. Spasm. I don't want to adjust right now because my laptop's on my lap. So I'm going to try to do this gently. Because last time I dropped my laptop. Oh, my stomach's growling. I'm hungry. Okay, so let's get back to this. Last week, when I volunteered at the kids' school, I noticed that some girls were wearing, who remembers crisscross? Mac Daddy make you jump, jump. Crisscross will make you jump, jump, The big baggy backward clothing, the big baggy bell bottom, pants. Those are from high-waisted bell bottom pants, 70s, right? So now it came back. It came back in 2023. They were wearing high-waisted pants, bell-bottom shoes. They're wearing platform. So everything is coming full circle. The baggy pants from 1980s and the bell-bottom. So it's not so much the flare at the bottom. It's just a giant wide leg. Like the mom jeans from the 1970s or 1960s, actually from the 1950s. The dresses, the peasant tops and stuff like that. So it says crochet became popular in the late 1940s and onwards, which we knew that by last week. Because everything starts to, everybody started to craft more. Everybody started to needlepoint. They started to embroider. So naturally, crochet became the second best thing to do. And I will show you some 1970s dress wear right here. I'll try to find some 1940s crochet as well. Lace. Lace was popular in 1910 on. So I believe from 1919, my great grandmother was introduced to it because she worked in a tortilla factory. So it's a tortilla factory. And she would my grandmother worked in a tortilla factory as well, where they would sit there and just, you know, make tortillas all day. And oh man, I don't know how they would have done that. So after that, they would work in my grandmother got a job working in a sweater making factory. So they would sit there and crochet all day. So my grandmother worked with my great grandmother, and they would crochet all day making sweaters. And my grandmother would tell me that they would sit there, and these ladies would sit in folding chairs all around in a circle, and they would talk, you know, speaking Spanish, and they would crochet these sweaters. And some women would bust out like 10 sweaters in one day. And I was just like, what? She was like, yeah. She goes, I was slow, but these women were busting out about 10 sweaters in 10 hours. And I was like, a sweater an hour? Oh my gosh, I can barely think of crocheting for 1 hour and I'm exhausted. But it was just crazy to hear the history of that. I mean, if you guys have stories like that, please share them in the comment section down below. It is just amazing to hear the history of where things originated from and the history of crochet. So I'm going to continue to read through this article with you guys. And we're going to see. So it talks about World War I, World War II. So in the 1910s, they would do white or pale lace. I do have some white lace, actually. I can't get it right now, but I'll show you a picture of what my grandmother's made, and I do have. My mom, when my grandmother passed away, was finding a whole bunch of stuff in her storage unit that she had there for my great-grandmother. So I do have lace for my grandmother. I do have lace for my great-grandmother, and you guys saw the hooks that I have. So after World War I, because of, you know, the much need for supplies out in the field and to recover from all the damage and destruction, the patterns became more simple, and there wasn't a lot. So it wasn't very popular at that point. The doilies were considered more delicate, so nobody really used them too much. However, after World War II, it greatly saw an increase. So it saw a much needed increase. I say needed because for me, crochet is extremely healing. Like you guys know, my grandmother taught me how to crochet to help my mind become at ease. She was like, you know what? You're jumping around the furniture too much. Here's a hook and here's some yarn. So that was me. Yarn and a plastic yellow crochet hook with a pineapple on top. So this kind of collided with crafts and, you know, do-it-yourself stuff post-war. And it was more of a prosperous thing for the war. So it was more of a recovery effort to help people become more focused on creating new things. And I think that's what we needed in 2020 as well. People wanted to recover from the shutdown, wanted to recover. And you'll see that often in history, like in the Great Depression, or actually in the stock market in 1920s, when that great crash happened, you guys. Guess what happened? Superman. He became the America's Man of Steel. And because that they had a symbol, and then shortly after that, Captain America came into view. And people need something, a symbol, to help them recover and to rebuild, not just themselves, but to help other people rebuild as well. And I think that's what happened in 2020. And right here after World War II, the volume of crochet patterns, it just, and crochet, it just greatly increased. And it was a much needed effort that we all needed to pick ourselves back up and to become a society again, to be out there and try to renew ourselves and to encourage one another. So it is a healing process, and people just pick that up from different areas. And crochet was that, and crafting and DIY stuff was that for the people after World War II and also for us in 2020. And I think that's why so many things, just the shelves were bare in the craft stores. The shelves were just completely bare everywhere you went to try and find supplies. Everything online was just out of stock all the time. So they started just, okay, I'm not going to sell from the store itself. We're just going to go straight from, the factory, and everybody's just going to purchase from there. And it was just hard trying to keep up with the demand during 2020, during the shutdown, that people just started. I remember I was ordering boxes of yarn, and that's when I created my yarn wall. I didn't really have a lot of yarn at that time, but I think the panic set in to where I was just like, I didn't know how to read patterns. I was very down on myself about reading patterns because I didn't understand what they were trying to tell me. And it was just really difficult for me to comprehend it because instructions like that just don't do well for me. And the YouTube boom, doing patterns on YouTube, it became very, very, and more crochet YouTubers, more DIY do-it-yourselfers became popular. And it's evident in this article that it is a pattern for us as a society to recover in healing during hard times like this through crafting, and to try to find ourselves and try to rebuild our own minds and our body to try and see where we exist again in society. So by the early 1970s, this next generation of crocheters renewed and just revamped and completely just popularized crochet. And the big thing about crochet in the 1920s or 1970s was the granny square, which was the largest recorded crochet pattern in history. Granny squares, you guys can, it, as with any pattern, if it doesn't have an ending, can go on forever. But the granny square has the world record of the longest pattern to just keep going because it's a repetitive pattern for, I don't know what that was. I think my kids went outside. If you heard that boom, I think they closed the door. Yeah, that's them. So if not, my dog is jumping on. What is that? Oh, okay. They're closing the back door. So I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm all into this. You guys, my friend Andrea, she was like, this is the most focused I've ever seen. You guys have no idea. I love history, and anything that I'm interested, like crochet, I am super hyper focused on. So this will be one of the most unedited videos you guys will ever come across me doing, because just the information that I'm reading on here is just extremely, and I'm not just taking from here, but I'm taking from self-knowledge of my history as well, that my grandmother has taught me, and things that I've read from other articles. So crochet in the modern age, the 21st century now, is more DIY, is more, like I said, we needed to find a way to rebuild ourselves in society and to pick ourselves back up, to give ourselves a purpose to keep going. By the 1970s, it seems like a reflection of the 2020s. So it seems like there's sort of a giant parallel universe comparing each and every single decade of where crochet stood, where it originated from, the popularity just gained traction. So I think now there's so many more outlets. There's so many more crochet patterns online, Etsy, Ravelry, blogs, websites from people like Blogs Here by Julia from The Little World of Whimsy. And there's so many different crochets, like Tunisian crochet, filet crochet, amigurumi, and just different styles and fashions in the fashion world. Harry Styles, him, and I think there was another artist, like, let's see, what's her name? Dolly Parton's her godmother. Her dad is a country singer. Miley Cyrus. I'm sorry, I am not familiar with, you know, general music. I don't listen to a lot of that. I put on my Christian or my oldies and my old hip hop. I'm not familiar with new age music, but Miley Cyrus has been around for a while. Her name just kind of, you know, took flight from my brain. So they wore a lot of crocheted items during interviews and during, you know, their concerts and stuff like that, and a lot more fashion icons like Christopher Kane's. So by fall of 2011, Christopher Kane's collection made a splash in the fashion world because it was nothing but granny square. And I'll show you guys a couple of his outfits here. Not the same ones that she's showing here, but it also was printed on different fabrics. So it wasn't just an actual granny square that somebody crocheted. It was also, I mean, they did that too for this fashion, but it was also somebody printed it on leather or different textured fabric. And they did put that out there, you know. And so, like I said, Harry Styles, his cardigan or his little cardigan that he wore for his concert in 2020 came from the J.W. Anderson's 2020 collection. And it's just made this huge splash for this younger generation that's coming up. And I say younger generation because it is a younger generation, you guys. I am 42. I'm in my early 40s. So it just, it is the newer generation right now. So, I mean, it was just the social media boom just hit hard with crochet. And that helped crochet gain the popularity that it has today. So the history of crochet is long and it is not very complex. It's just so interesting to find out, from Ireland to China to the Mediterranean to England to finally America. And it seems like we were writing the coattails of a lot of different styles of crochet and a lot of different origin stories of crochet. So you have the tambour, you have the shepherd's knitting, you have that other, oh gosh, I can't remember. My papers are in my other room. But you have that one from Peru, where, you know, and then Mexico. Oh my gosh, Mexico is a wholly different area. So all this area that my people are originated from, the Aztecs, it was just the weaving and the embroidery and the crochet and the tapestries. It is so, I mean, you guys know the setup is the blankets and everything that, you know, the Mexicans use with the sombreros, the hats and everything like that. It all originates from some place or another. And it all native. And it's just amazing to me to find out how the process of crochet became popular today and all the different ways that we can create new things and new items and just wearables and, you know, little items that we have today. So that is it for me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's history lesson. If you want to learn more, if you want to read verbatim from Julia's article, it is www.littleworldofwhimsy.com/the real history of crochet and expert ways in /. So I will take the article, I will post it in the link down below. But I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your Wednesday, a blessed rest of your week. Let me know if you guys have a history similar to this, or if you guys have anything antique from your grandparents or from yourself, and post in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell and click on the all button. It'll let you know when I have dropped another video. And thank you guys so much for joining me today. I will see you next time. Peace out. But before we get started, let us get it some little zibbity zibbity. You guys can find me. Wait, how do I do my intro? All right, you guys, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, And Pinterest. Oh, why does pain have to be so painful? It hurts so bad. I can't even focus on what I'm trying to say right now. If you are new here, a returning subscriber, thank you for joining me. Oh, if you don't know, now you know. That's how I do my intro. Article that I'm reading from, I'm giving my back hurts. Where crochet originated from. Oh lordy. Very least, some sense of the conditions under which the Irish lace industry are